I'd like to talk about somebody first. This poor gentleman here is a dialysis patient who has caught a bug. This is a very common problem with dialysis patients because we have low immune systems. This gentleman is in bed. He's had a battery of tests. He's not feeling particularly well, and he's just laying there. A nurse walks past. He looks over.
I'm meaning to say, nurse, are my testicles black?
And the nurse looks at him. I'll get the supervisor. The supervisor comes in. What's this? What's this? And he says,
Are my testicles black?
Well, let's have a look. And she pulls back the covers, throws back his gown. She's just about to say no. And he says, Are my test results back? But nursing supervisors are never one not to have the last word. So she says to him, Are you from Diaverum? They've got an app for that. Well, firstly, thanks for inviting me here today. I feel, I'll see if I can get that moving. I feel very humbled to have the opportunity to talk about the view from the chair. Pretty well where the needles meet the bloodlines, a long way from where Doug was talking a few minutes ago. But we're all connected. I've been on dialysis for about 20 years now. Over that period, strangely enough, I've dialysed at one main unit, and that's my unit, the Diaverum unit at Diamond Valley in Melbourne. So in some sense, not only am I sharing the experiences of that time, but I'm also holding up a mirror. I thought I'd talk about 3 milestones today. First of all, what it's like to realise that you're going on dialysis. Then about the Big D and Me blog, and a little bit about us, Big D, Diaverum and me, because we've done some fun things together. And also a little bit about what Doug was talking about, the new normal, what's coming now. I'll start with me. I was born in 1952. I have 4 sisters. I was the one in the middle, so 1 boy and 4 sisters. At 15 years of age, I joined the Navy. I got out of there as quick as I could. Then one morning at sea, a few years later, I found that I had only 1 kidney and that kidney was failing. So I was rushed to hospital. When 2 things happened when I woke up from the hospital bed. The surgeon leaned over me and he said, Of course, you know, this means your naval career is over. But I was too busy, get out of the way. I'm trying to see this young, beautiful, single nurse who was looking after me, and she just said hello. So you can guess who had all my attention, and she's had my attention ever since. In fact, we married 2 years later, and the interesting thing was, when you look at it this way, is that my kidney traded my life in the ocean wave for a life with Julie. And that's a fabulous bargain as far as I'm concerned. So I'm starting from a position where I don't really regret the kidney failure in the first place. For the next 20 years, we travelled and we had kids, and my kidney got worse and worse until finally I went on dialysis. And even though I'd been expecting it for all that time, I really didn't. I was surprised by the shock and the grief and the anger of having to go to dialysis that first session and the first few sessions. So I gradually got over that and went on a daily basis. But early in the piece, we did what most people who go on dialysis do. They search around for some way to get out of it. And our way was, Julie found that she had a compatible kidney. So we had a transplant. I had a transplant. The trouble was, the moment it got into my body, it made me sick, and the kidney was sick, and within 2 weeks it was gone. So I was back on dialysis. More grief, more anger, and all overlaid with a rather large dose of guilt. But time heals all things, and gradually we learned to live with dialysis as part of our life, part of our work, part of our travel, part of everything else that we do. 10 years later, I was offered another kidney from a deceased donor. I ungratefully rejected that one as well, and it lasted only for a short period. So, like many of you sitting here, if the kidney fairy had said to me at the time what was in store for me when things started to go wrong, I have no idea what I would have done. But luckily, she was silent, and I learned on the job. And doing it on the job, doing it slowly, meant that I could come to terms with it in some way. Oh, that was the one I was supposed to show him. There you go. So as they say, life is what happens to you when you're planning other things. In 2009, I decided to write a blog to share the experiences that I had. I felt I had the experiences that other people had, and sometimes when you're in the middle of those experiences, you really can't handle them. So the great opportunity is to put it down on paper and let other people see a little bit earlier what might happen. If the blog is one thing, I started writing just things that I thought I would enjoy and be grateful for, and sure enough, people responded, and it started with hundreds, and then thousands of people have come to the blog for support and a range of other things. Probably the big thing about the blog is that it's become an endless resource of understanding people's needs and wants and their thoughts and how they feel. Three or four posts that were quite interesting. The first one that I put in quite early was starting dialysis. What do I need to know? That's the blog for people who have just walked out of the doctor's office and are told they've got to go on dialysis, and they're in a terrible state. So this was designed to defray a little of that, and also to wipe away some of the nonsense people tell them as soon as they find out. You'll be dead in a week, or you'll be a zombie for the rest of your life. So people do say that. They're usually the people who aren't on dialysis, of course. So that was for that one. The second one, first dialysis session, it's like walking into a room with a blindfold. You have no idea what's going to happen. You know it involves needles, and that's not a good thing. So what you need to know is, what can I expect? What will happen? These were very popular posts. The third one, they're videos. I went around our unit and I asked 9 or 10 people how they felt when they first found out they had to go on dialysis and how they feel now. Now, none of them were overjoyed about being on dialysis, but most of them had come to terms with it and realised its value and found that they could live a normal life. And those videos, again, are very popular because they offer hope to people who are really uncertain. One of the interesting ones too was how do I choose a dialysis unit? The interesting thing about that, and there was a lot of posts and comments and things like that, was that the big insight is quality of life is absolutely related to quality of dialysis. If the dialysis is lousy or it's insufficient, you feel dreadful, that's the end of quality of life. If the dialysis is right, the right length of time, all things working well, it's fabulous and you can live a normal life. So, from my point of view, things that I found most important about choosing a dialysis unit, number one is you've got to feel safe. You must know that the staff are absolutely trained. The unit is accredited. The infection control is actually deep in the DNA because we catch anything that's going past. And so we really need support for that. Test results are explained, questions are answered, people know what's going on all the time. And safety is key. Flexibility, many dialysis patients still work or they work part-time and they need the opportunity to change times and to go to functions, and everybody is like that, and a good dialysis unit will respond to that. Creature comforts. Well, you're sitting in a chair for 15, 20 hours a week. It's got to be a comfortable chair. That's the first thing. It'd be pretty useful if you could do a little bit of work while you're there. So a little bit of space where you can have a computer, wireless technology, a range of things like that. Something to eat, a cup of tea. Now, all of these things I get. at Diaverum, and I'm always grateful for them. And it even can be surprising sometimes. You can get those little exercise bikes that's attached to the end of the chair. They are fantastic for just getting you moving again, just getting things going. And if you've done it for a few weeks, once you've done it like that, you actually feel like going to the gym. It's a slow process. Food is very important. Eating well is very important on dialysis. You've got to maintain your weight and you've got to maintain your energy. So if your dialysis session is during a meal time, it's really important that you can have a substantial meal. If you don't, especially older people, they tend to skip it or they eat late. It just doesn't work for dialysis people. The fifth there is proximity. Being close to the unit is a fabulous thing if you can do it. But it's not the only thing. If the dialysis unit is next door, but it's got a lousy name and it's unsafe, nobody will go near it. One of the things that I've seen happen when people come to Diamond Valley is they actually sell their home and move close. So their proximity is sorted out for them. All of these factors are great to assess the quality of the unit, but the big thing is talk to the person in charge. And this is what I say to people. Go and see the person who's running it, get an idea of what that person thinks. Now, at the outset I said I'm at Diamond Valley, and Diamond Valley does tick all the boxes for me. So I'll just give you a quick run through of what I think is a unit that's the manager, Chris Van Bakel, is at the top of her game, and she makes the unit tick. Obviously she's hot on safety and she's a very caring person. She's got great clinical skills, which mean if somebody's away, she can take over any job. But the big thing is that she gives individual care. She knows if my fistula's a bit funny, or I'm feeling weak, or my blood pressure's been low, or I need iron or whatever, and my treatment changes every session, and that's for everybody. So, imagine how you feel if you know that it's a personal support mechanism that you're walking into. It's not only, the individual care is not only for the clinical side too, it's also for the social side. She's a person who says yes and works out how later. Those people are hard to find, but they are great. She gets herself into a bit of trouble with getting staffing done and getting things done, and she's worked very long hours to deliver on what she's promised, but she does it. One time, she's very creative too. One time I asked her to ring a unit in a beachside suburb where I wanted to have some dialysis over Christmas, and they said, sorry, we're full. No. So what she did, and she knew someone in that unit who sometimes came to our unit. So she rang him and said, why don't you come down here for a holiday? And he said, I'll do that. That was it. I had my holiday on the beach. Can't beat that for service. Okay. So what about the relationship between Diaverum and me? Well, sometimes you get lucky with organisations. They have a real fit, and for me, Diaverum has always been like that. You guys know what you're doing. You are my friends. You're my support network, and it's a great thing to have. I'll talk about two things here on that network. The first is the app, and the second is something that you may not have heard of, which is a health program, a fistula health program. Back in 2013, I was writing on a subject called the kidney double act. Most people know that dialysis cleans the blood, but not many of them know that it doesn't replace the other thing that the kidney does, which is manage the chemical makeup of your body. It looks after electrolytes and things of that nature. So you need to replace it with supplements. If you don't, you end up with things like getting itchy and listless and thirsty and bloated, and you get restless legs and heart arrhythmia because everything's out of sort. So, and getting back into those is a delicate act. And I wrote a few blog entries to try and show people what to do, but I was continually getting questions about how to fix it. So I thought, hang on a minute, blogs are a big deal these days. Why don't I design a blog? I'll design a blog it's like an early warning system. so that it tracks each dialysis session and it tracks my chemical makeup, and I can watch it as I go along. And it can also tell me if there's any problems. It sounded like a great idea, you know. I get timely test results, so no more black testicles. I get the lot. So the difficulty, of course, is after identifying that, designing it, is how do I get it built? Because the build is the big deal, of course. So first thing I thought of was, I'll talk to Diaverum. Well, sometimes you do get lucky, especially with an idea whose time has come. And I spoke to Chris and Kath Fleming, the IT person, and they told me that, coincidentally, Diaverum was looking to have an app as well. So we talked, and we came up with an agreement and a team made in heaven. Basically, the creation would be from one team, me, I'm the team, and the build and the put together would be you guys. Fantastic. So that's what happened. It was built on Earth, and it was built by Diaverum. And it took a lot of effort. From the medical side, the algorithms and the data had to be underpinned by international standards, and that's not an easy thing. IT experts, again, data integrity, privacy, international health standards, everything had to be international. Communication experts to get the right look and feel for the product. And I've got to say, it was led by an absolutely crack management team. Nothing missed its deadlines, it all just kept moving. The unit was developed in Melbourne, it was tested by local patients, and more water. We've completed phase 1, the pilot, in in-centre dialysis, and phase 2 is about to be launched in next month. The phase 1 pilot was for in-centre hemo. Phase 2 is for in-centre and all-home hemo, which I'll talk about a little more in a minute. There's also a facility, pending privacy concerns, which we're sorting out, where someone can just say, I have a sore fistula, or the tube is red and aching or whatever. It'll take a photo and it'll gather all the results of the last few sessions and send a report to the clinical manager for that person. And there's another report for nephrologists where all of the nephrology details, treatment history, the well-being and dialysis summaries can be printed as a PDF and taken along to the nephrologist, or the nephrologist can have it. And of course there's an Android version coming up. This is the centre-based unit. I was going to show the computer, but I'll just keep moving because we've only got so much time, the phone. Most of you have probably seen it. It's a facility. There's a facility for saying how well you feel each day, and that is mapped. And then there's a facility for scoring dialysis, and the scores that are available show you how well the dialysis session has been. And it's interesting that you can actually look at these two, and if the dialysis is down here, quite often how I feel is down here too. So there's this lockstep. The other elements are the blood chemistry, saying what the results of the blood chemistry is, and then giving you a trend analysis of that, so you can map it over time. And of course, there's some big benefits for tracking and trend analysis for Diaverum too at the higher level. But the really big advance now is this new version, the one that's to be released. It's for peritoneal dialysis and home dialysis, all kinds of dialysis. And for these home dialysis areas, because they're at home, there's no machine to draw the information from, or with peritoneal dialysis, there's no machine, full stop. So the patient actually records the data themselves using these keyboards. Over there, probably can't see it with that one. So that basically, what that means is that all the home dialysis people can join the party. Everybody can now track the quality of their dialysis, and so look towards managing and better controlling the quality of their life. And that's the same for CAPD and for home HD and the trend analysis and so on. So, looking forward, firstly, the app will be released in English or to patients who can speak English. Downloaded from the App Store, gradual release to all the patients. There are a range of new functions the ones we've talked about before, consumer education, things like alerts with things to the photos and things to the various clinicians. League tables, I really like league tables. They're used to track, a league table is where a group of patients get together and track each other's scores. So there's a little bit of competition going on. Actually, there's a lot of competition going on. Going to the nephrologist is a like that. And our unit is a great example of that. People just out of the blue award gold stars to each other if they've reached a certain level, but they have to have the doctors okay that they can say that. So you get people who are constantly walking around bragging that they got this month's gold star or whatever. So, and the thing about that, of course, is it's a competition for more and more improvement. It's a terrific approach. Then there's the consumer satisfactions and e-health records and telehealth. We know about those. I suppose what you can sense here is that this is just the start of the D-Care journey. You know, we've a way to go with this. This is a chip in the game of the big data game, the game where Google Health and Google Verily are Apple Health and Google Verily are pouring billions into working out the best ways to manage and track people's health. And the frameworks that are available now that are plug-in frameworks that give enormous ability to conduct research overnight and conduct it amongst thousands or even tens of thousands of people. So this is a big step, and it's very exciting. The next one I just want to go over briefly is another thing that came on with the blog. In 2010, a young girl wrote to me from New Zealand, and she said that her father had rolled onto his fistula while he was asleep. The fistula had ruptured and he'd bled to death. He didn't feel anything. His wife found him lying in a pool of blood the next morning. His fistula had been swollen, slow to stop bleeding and weepy. The dialysis staff had ignored it and sent him home. Readers across the world were shocked about this, as was I, and I asked around, and people said, well, yes, it's been known to happen, but it's very rare. But ever since that post, more and more people wrote in, yes, that happened to me. Yes, it happened to me too. My father died, my boyfriend died, my brother died. Various people just kept coming in. One guy from Texas even said that he rang a company to clean up after his father was dead, and they said, oh, this is the 5th one this year. Amazing. Never thought of anything like it. After I did a bit further research, I found that it's called the fatal vascular access hemorrhage. It's an acronym for everything. And it's between 4 and 1% of patients die from home fistula ruptures. Of course, it varies between countries, it varies between units, and it varies between health systems. It depends on one thing. It depends on the vigilance of the nurse, looking every day at everybody's fistula and making sure that it's not like that, and arranging for a vascular surgeon to have a look at it and operate. But it doesn't always happen. And especially with home dialysis, people are not there to watch. This is why we put the camera in. We need to try and have people looking, keeping in track. So again, I thought, well, how can I raise awareness? I've tried 3 times. I put different blog notes on, but the notices kept coming in. I thought that what I'm doing is a waste of time. I've got to do something else. So guess who I talked to? I talked to Chris at Diaverum. She's the one that looks like Yoda. And she said, we'll start a quality survey. We'll send out a survey to all our patients and staff to prove the need. If there is a need, we'll develop a program, a training program, just a short one, and then we'll do the test again. Fantastic. Let's do that. So here's the patient survey, a little bit up close. Is it possible to rupture a fistula? No idea. What are the symptoms of fistula danger? What are the symptoms? What do you think what do you do if you think your fistula is about to erupt? And these questions were sent to patients in 2 units, and we backed them up with the same sort of questions sent to staff. The additional question was, how often do you look at a fistula for staff? The results were interesting. From a patient point of view, pretty disturbing. You know, is it possible to rupture your fistula? 70% said no, don't think so. What are the symptoms of a fistula in danger of rupturing? Nearly over 50% didn't know. At least some people knew what to do if you think that it's in danger of rupturing. Probably 80% of the patients at my unit, what do you do if it starts to rupture, said, call Chris. Not a good answer, anyway. So there was a problem there. The staff side is much better, but there is some room for improvement, or at least some reinforcement. So we came up with 3 key messages. Fistulas can rupture and they can kill you. To avoid rupture, look at your fistula every day and make sure that it's not looking like it's describing there. They're all warning signs of impending rupture. What do you do if it ruptures? You put your finger on the rupture and you lift your arm and then call for help. So this is just some ugly examples of fistulas that have ruptured or are about to rupture. As you can see, they're pretty ugly, but also you can see stuff like that doesn't grow overnight. That's weeks or even months of slow deterioration. So there's plenty of time for somebody to notice, and that's what this training thing is about. What if a rupture happens? Well, don't panic. That's a little one. Push your finger on it. The majority of people who have died when they were awake and their fistula ruptured died because they were rushing around looking for towels and other things, or a tourniquet. And the most effective way to stop this rupture is to put your finger or your hand on it and hold it hard and then raise your arm. But people have literally died looking for towels. Press with your finger, raise your arm, and then call the emergency number. Now, I'll just show this next slide, not to gross you out or anything, but just to give you an idea of what it looks like. The message in this is not a rupture, of course, but the message in this is, if you put your arm up, then it significantly stops the flow. And when we filmed this, the bevy of nurses that were watching, half of them said, I hadn't realised it would be that effective to put your arm up. Now imagine you're in a room, your fistula's rupturing. That is probably the most scary experience. And you weren't told this and you didn't know what to do. You run around, you'd lose maybe half your blood before you decided what to do. Even 10 minutes of telling people what to do and giving them a feel for that, even putting your arm up, gives them a chance to live. So, the presentation is almost complete and it's going to be presented at the Renal Conference in Australia in June. Once complete, Diaverum are presenting it to that conference, and if all goes as planned, it could be released globally, either through Diaverum or even wider. And who better to do it than Diaverum? Who better to lead the pack? So, last thing, our future, just a few things that are worth mentioning. The Fistula Health Program and the DCare program are wonderful examples of collaboration between patient and Diaverum, or patient and service provider, consumer and service provider. The app not only drives improvement in service delivery and clinical outcomes and patient experience, but it changes the way patients think. As soon as you get an app like that, you start to think, what else can I do here? I can do this, I can do that. I want more choice to do things. I'd like to personalise this, I'd like to do that. And many patients see a future where they're not only recipient of the service, but they're part of the service team. It's not such a dumb idea. They're becoming e-patients. So what's an e-patient? An e-patient is someone who uses their own health data to improve themselves. And they do it by going on the net, they get the knowledge, they talk to other people in the same situation. They're action-oriented, that is, if something's going wrong, they do something about it, they don't wait for it to happen. They believe in self-care, not self-diagnosis, but self-care. And as the Dr. Ferguson, who coined the term e-patient or expert patient, they're equipped, enabled, empowered and engaged. I think it just takes a moment's thought to say, if tomorrow your kidneys failed and you had to go through the sort of process we all go through on kidney exchange, would you be an e-patient or a patient who just stuck your arm out and hoped for the best? Now, I know people like you would all be wanting to be e-patients. There's nothing wrong with being an e-patient. It's a great thing to do. And in fact, if you're an e-patient, you're looking after yourself. And who better to look after yourself than you? You become your own guardian angel. Thank you. So, what next? I went to a conference recently with nephrologists, nurses, allied health, the whole gamut of the renal community. And part of that conference came up with a few future things in no particular order. They were things like, streamlining consultations by using telehealth. Telehealth is fabulous. Just about every country in the world already has doctors offering telehealth for $20 a session. It's everywhere and it's instant. Having consultations while on dialysis, that's a wonderful thing. It happens now and then for us, rather than having dialysis for 4 or 5 hours and then going and sitting in a waiting room for another 2 hours while you see the nephrologist. Another thing that's useful is creating a patient-centred focus, exactly what Doug was talking about, where the patient goes from one specialist to the next specialist to the next specialist, and the central view is the whole patient. Not I got a heart patient coming, or I've got a bones patient, or whatever. Flexible access to dialysis, that's certainly coming. Things like having an app for each unit where the patients in the unit can go to the app and swap sessions with each other. Obviously there's some ancillary information that has to go to a range of other people, but things where patients can trigger all the action. There's also possibilities for setting up holiday booking apps like booking.com, only for dialysis, where centres are rated, they get specials, they have special views, they do the whole thing. Or even the new bots coming out now are the big thing. You'll all have bots on your phones within a year, and you just say, find me a dialysis holiday in Bali for the next 3 weeks. And the bot goes away, finds it and comes back to you. Consumer representation on strategic committees is a useful thing. The view from the chair is a valid and actually quite insightful view, and it's worth hearing that voice. The use of virtual reality and augmented reality are great even for spicing up the time in the chair, but they're finding now with virtual reality there's more happening. There's some fascinating studies now found with burns patients where changing the dressing on a burns patient is an excruciatingly painful thing, and it's very difficult to stop the pain. What they're finding is they put a virtual reality headset on and show snow scenes with people skiing and doing amazing things. The VR floods the brain and the receptors with so much information that the pain recedes. So there's some great things to do on virtual reality. Oh, there we are, virtual reality. And that with the patient adding the input, the sum of the parts becomes even greater. So that's what is becoming the new normal. Summing up, Julie said to me before I came here that this is a very long speech. Couldn't you do it on Twitter? So here's my Twitter entry. Diaverum Lisbon Conference, view from the chair, 3 milestones, coming to dialysis, Big D and me, Big D, Diaverum and me, and our bright new future. And it is very bright indeed. Thank you.